Oscar Wilde was born in Dublin on the 16th of October 1854. His mother wrote poems and his father was a doctor. He studied at Trinity College in Dublin and then at Magdalen College at Oxford University, and then he went to a successful American tour about aestheticism. He wrote The Decay of Lying. Literature always anticipates life. Life imitates art far more than art imitates life. Art never expresses anything but itself. Published in 1889, this philosophical essay is a passionate defense of invention against artistic realism. Wilde writes how to build a new literature using imagination. This is the beginning of the new decadent culture. He also wrote another essays. Picture of Dorian Gray. Love and beauty, art and tragedy. Dorian Gray is a boy, is nobleman, is rich, is handsome, he's got everything. However, he does not know much about his qualities since he meets Lord Henry. That makes him believe that the only thing important in life is beauty. But then Dorian Gray gets sad. He thought that he would certainly become old and his beauty will be ruined. Dorian prays the portrait could get old instead of him, so that he will be beautiful forever, and his prayer is answered. Dorian will appear wonderful, and his sins will stain his portrait, without leaving any trace on his body. The portrait becomes the mirror of his soul. This is the beginning of a catastrophe. Dorian takes a fancy to an actress, Sybil Vane. They start a love story. So Sybil decides to retire. However, Gray leaves Sybil, who commits suicide. Dorian does not care about that. He looks to his picture, but the man smiles cruelly at him. He got up and locked both doors. At least he would be alone when he looked upon the mask of his shame. Then he drew the screen aside and saw himself face to face. It was perfectly true. The portrait had altered. The more Dorian becomes bad, the more the portrait gets ugly. And then the tragedy is going to reach its height. Basil is killed. Dorian, so you think that it's only God who sees the soul, Basil? Draw that curtain back and you will see mine. Basil says, you told me you had destroyed it. Dorian says, I was wrong. It has destroyed me. Basil says, what a thing I must have worshipped. It has the eyes of a dazzle. We know that Basil loved Dorian Gray. Dorian says, each of us has heaven and hell in him. He shouts this sentence and kills Basil, who was his friend, and to whom he declared friendship. The thing is the dead Basil, and Dorian calls Alan Campbell, a chemist, who has been one of his friends for a while, to make Basil disappear. We don't know how this scientific process happens. We just know that Basil disappears. And Basil is just a thing that has to disappear. Then Alan Campbell commits suicide. It was the living death of his own soul that troubled him. Dorian is obsessed with the death of his own soul. He finds comfort in opium and lives a dissolute life. He tries to change, he tries to be good. However, as Lord Danbury reminds him, he just wanted to feel a new sensation. He will soon be going out about like the converted, warning people against all the sins you have grown tired. He looked around and saw the knife that had stabbed Basil Hallward. As it had killed the painter, so it would kill the painter's work. And know that man, it would kill the past, it would kill his monstrous life. Then Dorian Gray kills himself. And while right, there was a cry heard, and a crash. It is the end of a long trail of blood. Now we're going to see the characters. Dorian Gray is a nobleman and starts his life as a good and beautiful boy, but this is just a mask, because through the novel he reveals to be superficial and cruel. Gray destroys everything he touches. He has an evil influence on everybody he meets. He's a terrible man. However, he is terribly fascinating. Then, also, Dorian is cold like ice because he doesn't care about anybody. He cannot love anybody, neither himself nor Basil, to whom he declares friendship. But how he, can he define himself a friend of Basil? He can't feel anything. He is cold when he kills Basil. He's a traitor and a liar. Basil is the romantic hero, passionate, pure, idealistic, and doomed to failure. Basil's love for Dorian is true and desperate. His wild romantic soul. Basil dies tragically like romantic ideals die. He does not know his enemy, a demon dressed up as an angel, because he is really a candid man. This is my favorite character. I knew that I had come face to face with some whose mere personality was so fascinating that if I allowed it to do so, it would absorb my whole nature, my whole soul, my very art itself. Basil is fascinated by Dorian and loves him. This is his confession. Dorian, from the moment I met you, your personality had the most extraordinary influence over me. I was dominated soul, brain, power by you. You became to me the visible incarnation of that unseen ideal whose memory haunts artists like an exquisite dream. I worshipped you. I was only happy when I was with you. He, Lord Henry is an eccentric dandy. He loves beauty, art, and cigarettes. Basil thinks that Henry has influenced Dorian. However, he has just revealed his real nature. He is a spectator of life, and he doesn't do what he says. He talks about life instead of living. He refuses of a kind of emotion. He is completely rational. Be always searching for new sensation. Be afraid of nothing. Hedonism. Youth is the only thing worth having. Beauty is a form of genius. It's harder indeed than genius, as it needs no explanation. The books that the world calls immoral are the books that show the world its own shame. Some ironic quotes: punctuality is the thief of time. The only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. And the secret of remaining young is never to have an emotion that is unbecoming. Now, the preface of a picture of Dorian Gray. The artist is the creator of beautiful things. This is the first sentence of a preface. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are cultivated, for this there is hope. They are the elect to whom beautiful things mean only beauty. There is no such a thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written, that is all. All art is quite useless. I wrote Art for Art's Sake. This was an idea of Walter Potter, one of Wilde's teachers. However, Wilde went farther than aestheticism. The themes: we got eternal youth and decay, art, life, beauty, homosexuality, the relationship between Baron and Baron and Basil and Dorian. Excuse me. Morality and pleasure, real personality, and appearance and respectability. So, the mask. And now we're going to talk about the society comedies. I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left. We have. I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about? The fools. Oh, about clever people, of course. What fools? This is an example of Wilde's humor. So, this is an intelligent humor. He also wrote A Woman of No Importance and Lady Windermere's Fan and A Tragedy in France, Salome. His short stories, he wrote The Happy Prince, The Selfish Giant, and Lord Arthur's Saville's Crown. But the most famous is The Carnival Ghost, where he ridiculed American society and its deep faith in technology. We know the Super Soap, Pinkerton, and everything. That's funny. While in Victorian society, he criticized the hypocrisy of Victorian society due to the contrast between appearance and reality, respectability and wrongness. Dorian Gray is perfectly Victorian because he seems beautiful, however, he hides an evil monster. In his comedies, Wilde portrays the idle upper classes and their foolishness. And now biography. Someone who has been so hit. Meanwhile, Wilde has begun an affair with Douglas, the son of the Marquess of Queensberry, who obviously disapproved this relationship. These circumstances lead to a scandal, a dreadful turning point. Wilde is put on trial and he is convicted of gross indecency. In 1895, he is sentenced to 2 years of hard labor in Reading jail. The hero writes De Profundis, a long letter to his lover, and the poem The Ballad of Reading Jail. The Ballad of Reading Jail. Some loved too little, some too long, some did the deed with many tears, and some without a sigh. And all men kill the thing they love. By all let this be heard. Do the deed comes from Shakespeare's Macbeth. Macbeth, who killed Duncan, says, I've done the deed. The one who loves too long is wild. The other is Douglas. We know that it was a very difficult relationship. When Wilde went out of prison, they met and then separated. Wilde died in 1900. Bye.